famous road biker in my childhood was Eddie Merckx, and he had a saying, any bike ride is a good ride. So even if you ride 15 minutes when you don't feel like riding, that's a great ride. And I usually find even, of course, you don't always feel like riding, but once you're on the bike, 30 minutes in, you don't want to come back home.
Hi guys! Itong video na to medyo late to eh. Interview ko to kay Charles. Si Charles is from Canada na bumisita rito sa Pilipinas. Bali part to na to nung upload kong video. Medyo natagalan lang to, natabunan. Pero ito isama na natin. Pag pinanood nyo to, makakakuha kayo ng mga tips. Kasi siya sasabihin niya rin sa video kung gaano na siya katagal sa pagbabike. Kung anong klaseng pagbabike ginagawa niya, makakakuha kayong idea kung paano sila mag-ride in Canada. Iba yung nature nung biking dito sa atin kaysa sa kanila eh. Pero dun sa mga sinasabi niya, may mga similarity na kung naglo-long ride ka, nagbabike ka, makaka-relate ka rin sa mga sinasabi niya kung paano yung preparation, paano mo i-appreciate yung ride. May mga additional dito na nakaka-meet din natin sa Heroes Trail, si Sir Ramon Team HATAK. Maganda yung grupo nila. Doon sa mga hindi pa nakakapag-subscribe, subscribe na kayo sa channel ko, Jay Katigbak. Lahat ng pinipicture ko rito sa channel ko is about ride, long ride, mga bike ride experience. Kaya guys, yung hindi pa nakakapag-subscribe, subscribe na kayo. Marami pang lugar dito sa Pilipinas ang lalakbay natin gamit ang bisikleta. Okay guys, panoorin nyo to. Salamat.
Yeah, my name's Charlie Berrisch, and I'm visiting here with Jay. It's my first time in the Philippines. My wife is originally from here, so it was a first time visit for me. Coming back after 20 years for her. I'm a long-time mountain biker, lifetime mountain biker, 30-something years. Started with rigid bikes before there was even suspension, and not as many trails. Where I come from in Canada, there's lots of trails, lots of good terrain and climbing, and it's a culture that I'm interested in, and something that I wanted to experience in the Philippines. So this is a start for me, and I'm looking forward to coming out. I'm now 61, so I want to visit all the places that I can around the world. And of course the weather is fantastic. It's February now. So I just checked in my home and it was minus 30 degrees, and the snow is 30 centimeters of snow in my driveway, which my neighbor is taking care of for me while I'm here in the sunshine at 31 plus. So it's almost a 60-degree temperature difference. It's a big difference in the climate. We do get hot weather. Our top temperature could be 31 to 35, 38 degrees, very humid. But that's a normal temperature almost here, and that temperature we get is maybe 2 months. We'll get that. 4 months of summer, 2 months of hot, 6 months of weather, and a couple of in between fall and spring where it could be 10 degrees. So it's a very short season here. I did some racing in Canada. Originally, I started road racing when I was a boy. Yeah. My father was interested in it, so I joined a club at 13 and raced junior road racing. And then I got out of it for a while. I got a motorcycle, and I was young, 17, and that was more interesting and faster and crazy for me. But then reality kicked in, and that bike was so fast, and I decided to put that down. And then this was just at the time that mountain biking was starting, so it was like a crossover sport from motocross and I really got involved in that. At that time, there wasn't as many trails, so we started building trails or converting hiking trails and using hiking trails. And again, that's on a rigid bike, no suspension, so 18, 21 gears and not even index shifting, crazy time. But we still did it. It was fun. We didn't know. And the big difference now is you got so many suspension parts, and the bikes are lighter and better. But it's all still just biking. After the road racing and after motorbike riding, I got into the mountain biking, and eventually at an older age, at 40, I did some downhill racing. And we have in Ontario, which is a province in Canada, we have some mountains, but not the famous mountains like Whistler and or Quebec.
Yeah.
But a pretty interesting hill. So I did some downhill racing and visited Quebec, and I eventually got some medals in some senior races at 40 something. I got a medal in downhill racing Ontario championships. And but the injuries started piling up, and I started to get nervous about long term, so I decided just to concentrate on fitness riding, mountain biking, trail riding, just with friends, and more of enjoyment than downhill, because that really is a young man's game, the downhill racing. I like to do road riding in the hotter weather, our hotter weather, so that is July and August, where it can get to 30 degrees on those hot days. I like to go out on the road, and a good ride could be 60 to 100 kilometers. I'm not really worried about the distance. What I like is the pace, to really try to keep your cadence up. Really pedal hard and don't leave anything out on there. So 3 or 4 hours is good, enough to leave you some recovery if you have to do some things at home. Once you get into the 6-hour time, you're really finished for the day, and so all the chores will have to be left. But I like to do that, and then maybe 5 days out of the week, counting in some injuries or stiffness or a rain day. So it's hard to get 7 days in, especially at an older age. You need a rest, a recovery day. I have a group of a few friends that we do mountain biking in. Maybe 3 or 4 will go in the car to our local trail, which is 20 kilometers away. But luckily I have a trail right close to my home where I can mountain bike right from my home. And for time's sake and for efficiency, you don't have to wait for anybody. I just like to ride by myself. And also on the road, same thing. I ride mostly alone on the road. You do hook up with other bike riders because the roads are popular training areas. So if you meet somebody, or if I meet somebody on the road, I'll hook up and go to their next turn with that kind of thing. But I kind of bike like a surfer. When I feel like it, when the time comes, I just feel like going. I don't have to wait or want to wait for somebody to get their gear, meet me, and I just like to go when I feel like it. So mostly I ride alone on the road, but mountain biking, yeah, it's good to have a few friends, especially when you slip or fall and you need some help to get back to the car. Mountain biking can be safer that way. I see a building. I see there's definitely a culture. I was surprised the morning at Heroes Trail how many are congregating and coming and going, and the level of bikes too. You would think the Philippines, they're on basic bikes, but there's a lot of mid and top level bikes, and the trail is challenging, but could be even more challenging. But I know that space is probably the issue. You need to have a longer, bigger space, and maybe it gets outside of Manila, which next time I come, I plan on exploring some of the provinces and some of the off the beaten path trails and also the road riding I'm interested to follow up with too. Well, training, most important thing is mental really with downhill.
Yeah.
Food is not so much the food because it's a gravity sport and the hill pulls you down. The accelerators are the brakes. When you release the brakes, that's the acceleration, and that's what carries your speed. So it's really a mental game of how far you want to push yourself and where are you going to take the risk, and how close do you want to cut the corners to make fractions of a second. So that, as far as training, it's mental, and that's where the motocross biking came in, because everything is a fast motion in a motocross, so when you get on a bicycle downhill, it's almost in slower motion. So that really is a good training for downhill racing if you can motocross. And as far as cardio, you'll train on a road bike to do some road training to get your cardio training and such. Well, the tips are, and the famous road biker in my childhood was Eddie Merckx, and he had a saying, any bike ride is a good ride. So even if you ride 15 minutes when you don't feel like riding, that's a great ride. And I usually find, even, of course, you don't always feel like riding, but once you're on the bike, 30 minutes in, you don't want to come back home. So back to mental. Sometimes you don't feel like riding, but you try to push through it and just get out there and ride. There's no substitute for the miles.
Yeah.
And try to keep the pace up. And that could be the advice that I could say, just ride. I had an excellent time in the Philippines. Great biking and some interesting trails that I'm interested in exploring more. And but the culture, the people, super friendly. I'm already ready for friendly, but it was even above my expectations. And the culture, and very good experience.
Thank you, Charles. Maybe see you next year.
Not maybe, for sure.
Sure.
I'm going to be back, and we're going to go out in the provinces, and we're going to hit the road more and do. I want to do the experience that you do, going through the villages and seeing the people and stopping at the stands.
Yeah.
It's fantastic, and any people that haven't seen Jay's videos, it's interesting. It's like a geography lesson or a travel show almost. Fantastic work, Jay, and I'm looking forward to working with you again.
Taga Singapore kayo?
Singapore.
Ayun, no? Tama-tama. Shout out sa mga bikers ng Singapore. Filipino bikers ng Singapore, tama?
Oo.
Ayun.
Hello mga bros. I'm tawag sa akin Big Bro from
Big
Singapore.
Bro.
Big
Okay
Bro
po.
ng mountain bikers. So may club kami, Team Hatak.
Team Hatak ng
Team Hatak ng Singapore.
Singapore.
May Malaysia branch na rin kami. Pero we're looking for Hatak Philippines, so Hatak Malaysia, Manila.
Galing ng
Hopefully.
grupo, Hatak.
Oo.
Hatak.
Pero yun yung club ko, club namin, but nag-establish ako ng
Bikers Club.
Bikers Club Alliance.
Alliance.
So ang purpose nito is that kasi marami na rin akong biking club na
nasamahan.
Established.
Okay.
Pero may kakawatak-watak. So ngayon, sabi ko paano kaya So maraming mountain bike club. Nagtayo ako ng alliance ng mga mountain bike club. So
mas
it's open
maganda.
to everyone na gustong sumali. Basta ang motto lang namin, fun, fitness, and friendship.
O yun?
F3.
Tama. Jay Katigbak po.
Jake.
Jay Katigbak.
Nice to meet you. Jay.
Apo, ano pangalan
Nice
nila?
to meet you. Ramon Padiernos.
Ramon Padiernos.
Pero sa mountain bike community Singapore, Big Bro tawag nila sa akin.
Big Bro. O, tawagin ko na kayo Big Bro.
Big Bro. Salamat.
Nice to meet you po.
Sige, salamat. See you at the trail. So, Bro Jay. So, pag nagpunta ka doon, tawagan mo lang kami. So tawagan mo lang ako. Tapos kukunik kita doon sa mga barkada. Ang something na talagang magiging very proud ka sa mga Pinoy mountain bikers sa Singapore. Talagang iba yung nila. Talagang cool gentleman, caring. At saka talagang kahit anong tanong mo, support all the way
Support.
agad sila.
Support.
Solid tayo doon mga Pinoy mountain bikers. So yun nga, kaya nga tinatag ko yung Bikers Club Alliance,
Okay.
which is samahan ng mga mountain bikers club.
Okay po.
Oo. So kahit anong club, welcome doon. It's just tatlo lang yung kailangan it has to be, you should be riding with fun, fitness, and friendship.
So, wala
lagi
pong
yun.
pinipiling bike yon.
Walang pinipiling bike yun.
Walang diskriminasyon,
Walang
no?
diskriminasyon.
Good.
Basta you have to join these F3 principles.
Okay po.
So yun lang. So one of the doon na pinakasikat na riding
Yun, oo.
spot doon, tinatawag namin Ketam Trail sa Pulau Ubin.
Island po ba yan?
Oh, island yun. Small island sa Singapore. So sakay ka ng ferry boat sa Changi Village.
Okay.
Tapos sakay mo yung bike mong ganyan.
Apo, oo. Ganda.
Tapos in the island,
Yun, no?
in the island, yun ang mga
Trail.
trails.
Oo.
Trail.
Galing.
Merong double black diamond, may black diamond, tapos may mga blue trail din. Tapos may tourist trail.
Technical ba yung mga trail dyan o pang touring?
Pipili ka. May sign siya. Pipili ka. Ayan yung
Community niya ron.
yan
Dami niya,
yung mga bros ko. Marami kami.
Oo.
Pero ito, mga Team Hatak to. Tawag ko
Team
dito,
Hatak.
Hatak family ko yan.
Yun.
Pero marami kami mga bros na mga ibang bikers. Mga dark Berlogs, Pachacoleros, Ciclistas. Yung mga cool mountain bikers din. Ganda na sama ng mga Pinoy dyan talaga. So yun lang talaga maging proud. Ayan, so
Yun.
may mga sign na ganyan. You have an option kung gusto mong black diamond o blue trail or normal trail. So ayan.
Apo.
Yan lang.
Oh,
Sayang community.
Singapore yan. Oo,
Singapore.
sana.
Sana mga...
Pag nakakuha pala ng promo.
Oo, puta lang, tawagan mo lang kami, organize.
Marami ka
All out
bang
yan,
bike
mga
doon,
bros.
sir?
Meron ako, sa akin,
Yun.
4 yung bike ko sa...
Pwedeng humiram na lang.
Oo, siyempre.
Para sarili ko na lang dadaling ko.
26, dalawang 27.5. Pero yung mga
Walang
bros
problema.
natin, may mga spare bikes yan. So,
Yun.
pwede tayong humiram. Puro mga mabait na mga bros natin doon. Hatak at saka kahit... Basta member ng BCA, yung Bikers Club Alliance. Cool yan.
May papa-member ako, sir,
sige.
para mahatak ako dyan.
sige.
Yun.
Isama kita sa grupo.
Sige pa, sige
Tapos
pa.
pag nag-arrange kami ng overseas trip, tinatawag namin Trail Hoppers Quest.
Okay.
So it's about quest of fun, fitness, and friendship with extra, may food trip, merong nature trip and everything.
Okay po.
So ayan bro, basta join ka lang doon, tawagan mo lang ako. Okay Jay?
Maraming salamat po.
Thanks for the time.
Ma'am Singapore, ito yung grupo nila.
Hindi, bali Bikers Club Alliance to. Pero yung grupo namin, Team Hatak.
Team Hatak.
Sa Singapore.
Ang grupo naman nila, sir, dito, Iron Horse.
Ganito yung mga binibenta.
Ayan. Pang trail talaga. Wow!
Parang transponder. Tapos nag-enable sa awards.
Nagbi-blink siya.
Delikado na signal.
Signal.
For the year.
Parang ginagamit sa karera.
Itong next week. Pag nawala ka. So,
Malocate.
kulang.
Galing
Galing, ano?
Parang pare-pare sila ng requirement eh. Parang na mas madali na. Tsaka yung technical lang. Material lang pala ito
Na-meet ko ngayon mga taga San Andres, Manila. Nag-trail sila rito sa Heroes. Pang ilang beses mo na rito?
Mga pang 10 siguro,
Kabisado mo na yung trail.
sakto lang.
Pero mga taga San Andres, ito talaga yung hilig mo, trail.
Hindi naman, long ride din.
Long ride din.
Medyo trail yan.
Kumbaga, all around dapat.
Bali na-invite ko nag-invite sa amin.
In-invite mo sila dito?
in-invite
Ikaw
sila
yung
dito.
hasa dito.
Pasado ko na. Nag-detail kami, mas grabe dyan dahil basa.
Pag maputik talaga.
Nakakatakot yung maputik.
Oo.
Ito first na.
Ito, first time. Sir,
Okay naman.
experience mo, sir.
Mahirap kailangan training.
Pero, na-enjoy mo.
Enjoy. So isabihin kailangan ko lang ng training pero gusto ko. Masarap.
Sarap. Padyak all the way kayo papunta rito?
Malapit lang.
Mga ilang kilometro hanggang dito from San Andres? 18 kilometers. Wala pa isang oras yun.
Ang bilimbe sa amin, 20.
20? Ganda pala ng mga rings ba yan?
Magkano yung ganong frame? Frame lang ba yan o set? Set.
Yung nagbigay sa akin nito si Charles, nagbakasyon lang siya rito sa Pilipinas kasama yung wife niya. Siya yung naka-appreciate dun sa mga video ko sa YouTube eh. Nakakatuwa kasi may ibang lahi na naka-appreciate dun sa mga ride na ginagawa natin. Hindi lang pala puro Pinoy yung nanonood dun sa video, meron na ring ibang lahi. Ito nga yung mga binigay niya sa akin, may gloves, may sombrero. Hi Charles! Thank you for coming here in the Philippines. I had a lot of fun with your family. Thank you for everything.